Shalom. Call Halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakaha Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers that do this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. The 144,000, 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel who are to be the judges here on earth in the kingdom of heaven, which is an earthly kingdom, according to the scriptures. All right, and to the rest of the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations, whom the Lord, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, JC, is coming back. His name is Yahushai, and he's coming back to gather up. He's going to have his angels, the mighty ones, gather up his scattered elect from among the heathen nations. All right, and to the few Akwath that being the sisters that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another brutal lesson in truth. And this is 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3. And it reads, the point is in 8, but I'm going to start at 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called God, or that is worship. So he, as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, told you these things? And now you know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. And that time is now, the Wadi How Bashim Shai. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he now who letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way. All right? Esau Edom is being chased from the world. He's being called out. From the small hats to the regular Edomites, they're being put on blast. And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and to destroy with the brightness of his coming. The men of the Lord, primarily them of the Great Millstone and the brothers that teach the likewise doctrine, through going into the scriptures and going on the YouTube, on the internet, and bringing out this truth in the Bible, all right, about the fall of Esau, Edom, and the rise of Jacob. The prophecies are moving throughout the world, and the world has changed even more so ever since 2007. The prophecies of the Bible are walking off the pages of the book. And Esau, Edom is being exposed. And not only by the Israelites, but the Lord is putting a spirit, that Psalm 64 spirit is engulfing them, and mainly their women. And as they try to use the media, like, you know, I saw some fight, I think it happened in Cincinnati, where two Edomite dudes got wrecked, and the Edomite wench got wrecked too. She got laid out too. And they use their media, you know, now they want to build an all-white town to make themselves, they're the victim. But they're the ones doing all the violence, you know, all the child molestations and the rapes and the, you know, things that are just unseemable, just unseemingly wicked, unnecessarily wicked. All right. And what you find is that the people are that way because their leaders are that way. All right. From the foreign national NGOs that rule the American government, the lobbyists, all right, down to the police officers and the sheriffs. Okay, they'll show you some YNs smacking up some old Edomite woman and snatching a purse or whatever. All right, but it would never measure up or come anywhere close to the wickedness that they do to Jake and to other people and to their own. All right, this is the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus 10:2, and it reads, "As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what matter of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein." So the everyday Edomite, the small town Edomite, is just as wicked as the child trafficking billionaire playboys with the jet set and use their container ships to ship humans and cargo all around the world for their pleasure. And then they set up systems, because all these systems that like this woman is about to talk about, all these systems, when you look at the CEOs and the people in charge of these organizations, I think she's talking about DCFS, it's always a small hat, and it's always a woman. All right, so they're the ones that are really responsible for this. So this is a video that I caught wind of that was put up by beloved brother from Arrows of Indignation. You should be subscribed to that channel. All right, brother has a very unique way. He and there's another brother. Can't think of his name right now, the name of his channel. But they both have a really good way of finding clips and information that Esau tries to bury or hide, put on the back page. So without any further ado, we're going to play about 2 or 3 minutes of this video.
Of the 9 children, 5 of which were their biological children, the biological children were watching TV and playing video games, while the adopted children were doing housework and chores. While being interviewed with the DCF worker, the children did not know basic information such as their birthdays, and Jill would either correct them or have to look up information on her phone before she finally shut the interviews down, saying she needed to consult her lawyer. When DCF realized that there was
when she realized she was exposed, all right, because what's going on is these people are brutalizing children and collecting checks on them, barely feeding them and treating them horrible. I'm gonna let her tell it. You know, they made it like a cage on a bunk bed, with plywood, and would lock a 14-year-old, you know, in this enclosed area. And I can only imagine what they did to him mentally. All right, you're talking about cruel, man.
A 10th child, a foster child that was unaccounted for. They asked the parents where she was, and they claimed that she had never been to Florida, that she was in Arizona, where they had moved from. But that was found to be untrue. She had been to Florida until sometime in 2024, when she called her biological mother and begged her biological mother to come and get her. The Arizona woman relayed allegations of at least one adult in the home committing SA against at least one child. Another section of the documents state that Brian Griffith...
That was the pale male, the younger one, the son that you saw just a moment ago. All right, they're the problem in America. They're the problem in the world, not brown people. All right, it's not. There's a video that I hope I can find where they give you the breakdown of all these pastors and church members, which Vocab has been completely quiet about, because he's too busy chasing Hebrew Israelites, you know. With all these pastors that are SAing children and underage people. But where's the outrage? And it's not, you know, President Trump, it's not the brown man, it's not the migrants that are doing this. When they say that, they're projecting. Look up what projecting means. That's what the Edomites, that's what so-called white people get on TV and do. They project. So what they're complaining about is what they're guilty of and what they're afraid of, because they're afraid of it being done back to them.
That the father allegedly beat the foster and adopted children with a cane, but was careful not to leave a mark. They also allegedly treat their foster and adopted children differently in terms of food. She reported that if there wasn't enough food, the foster and adopted children in the home wouldn't get any food. After the children were removed from the home, and in the following interviews, one of the 14-year-old boys said during a therapy session that he sometimes was caged in his bunk bed at the home as punishment. And in a follow-up interview with the sheriff's office, the boy alleged a routine where his parents would use a piece of plywood to cover up the only entrance of the bottom tier of his 3-tiered bunk bed, often making him wait until the morning before he could use the bathroom if he had to. Straight from the arrest warrant, the 14-year-old boy reported that his mother occasionally asked him to scoot out of his bed and lie on the floor, during which she pressed a plywood sheet onto his chest and back as a form of punishment, resulting in splinters that caused injury. The boy lifted his shirt.
This wicked bitch. This wicked. They were doing this to these people, man, to these children. All right? Extra wicked. Okay? I found what I was looking for. All right? And like I said, Vocab Malone and the Christian churches, they have absolutely nothing to say about this.
A Missouri jury has found Baptist church youth leader Timothy Brown guilty of a 12-year-old girl who attended his church. Texas Christian school teacher, say that 5 times fast, and church child care worker Patrick Farmer has been indicted for child crimes. Michigan Baptist pastor Harold Cole has been arrested for the rape of a child under the age 13. North Carolina Baptist church leader and Christian school coach Mickey McMahon has been arrested on dozens of child charges. West Virginia church youth pastor John Radcliffe and his wife Kathy have both been arrested on charges of children. Michigan Evangelical Church worship leader and Christian recording artist Zachary Radcliffe,
these people really are red and not white,
has been arrested for child crimes. Tennessee church member James Fairchild has been found guilty of taking a 6-year-old little girl into the bathroom of his church and her. Texas Evangelical megachurch youth pastor Charles Goff has been arrested for possessing videos of little girls being. Mississippi Baptist church worship leader Tyler Selby has filed his intent to plead guilty to federal child crime charges. He produced a video that showed him a child in a bathtub. I'm honestly starting to wonder if maybe there's something all these people have in common. Surely not. A Missouri jury has found Baptist church youth leader Timothy Brown.
Yeah, what they all have in common is that they're all Edomites and they're all Christians. Christianism is wicked, it's satanic. These people don't believe in the Lord at all. Vocab will say absolutely nothing about this. Nothing at all. And neither will any other Christian. As a matter of fact, they'll just sweep this under the rug because many of them, they do the same thing, man. All right, these people, let's get a scripture. They're being found out, Luke 12:2. But there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. All right. And Esau Edom, like I said, he's the victim villain. All right. He's the big villain that raped, robbed, stole, and colonized, conquered, appropriated everything that wasn't his into his own possession. All right. And then he'll use his lobbyists and his media to play the victim. And now we're living in a time where the world is caught on to this. And it's not working anymore. All right. So let's pull this one up. Oldie but goodie. And I do believe that this particular skit, what he said, is what got him unalived. I don't think he died of natural causes at all, but that's just me. I'm not saying that I know that. It's just something I believe.
They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the...
Including all the family services programs for children and that sort of thing. They own it all. So all this wickedness and trafficking, the Planned Parenthood, all of that. Small hats, same people that control these lobbyist groups, which control the U.S. government. 100%.
They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right.
Yeah, that doesn't help them at all, okay? lead me to this particular video. All right, because you know, so he's going to talk about their colonization. And matter of fact, before I go into this stuff on this particular channel, because I got a couple from this one, maybe 2 or 3, I need to go and go to the receipt folder and read to the copyright disclaimer, just in case. Don't want any issues. With copyright disclaimer section, under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All right, so I'm not profiting from this in any way whatsoever. This information is being used for exactly what the copyright statute says. All right, education and informational use. What's the problem here? I don't know why this isn't playing.
Here's a fun geography.
You say Europeans never created a civilization.
Show me one. That's the only question I've had. Show me a European civilization. Rome was not a civilization. Greece was not a civilization. You don't know a day in the history of Greece where there wasn't a war. You don't know a day in the history of Rome and there wasn't a war. Those are not civilization. Those are death cults, war culture. They're not building anything. They're stealing from other people, borrowing from other people, and still carrying on this anti-human, anti-nature behavior of murdering, stealing to conquer and appropriate something that belonged to someone else that you could have gotten by just shaking their hands and making it.
Oh yeah, they're still appropriating other people's property, lands, and heritages into their possession to this day. That hasn't changed. All right, they're still doing that. All right, and Rome and Greece. You know, well, let's get a little biblical history. Let's go to the scriptures. All right, because the pale Europeans that are now in Rome and in Greece, both physically and spiritually, that rule both, because this is spiritual Rome here in America. Those people aren't the original inhabitants. The people in Greece, all you have to do is look up Etruscan history. You know, look up the Minoan histories. Those people were melanated like the man on the screen. You know, they had different hair textures and things, but as a matter of fact, they got all these movies coming out with all these Samoans, Hawaiians, and etc. All these chiefs that were fighting as they were being colonized around the turn of the century of the 19th century, and even the war dress that they wore. Those are the same headdresses that the Romans adopted and started wearing. All right, they were wearing what the King Kamehameha and all the, you know, Hawaiian, Samoan, Polynesian, Tongan kings were wearing. Those were your picks. You know, they were dark-skinned people who painted themselves with tattoos and stuff. All right, and they got driven out of their land, and or appropriated right into Alexander's army. And just like everything else and everyone else, we're going to give you some evidence of how they, you know, lighten everyone up. This is what Esau Edom, the so-called white man, did. This was his MO. And then he hides that sort of thing from his history books. Okay? And I'm going to show you a quick clip of some info to prove that. All right? But here's a clip from the Wakanda movie. All right? So let's play this one real quick. This is one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie too. All right, this stood out to me when I watched the movie. So he doesn't want to. We'll just do what we did before.
France is a
Good morning. How can I help you?
I was just checking out these artifacts. They tell me you're the expert.
You could say that.
They're beautiful. Where's this one from?
The Bobo Ashanti tribe, present-day Ghana, 19th century.
For real? And what about this one?
One's from the Edo people of Benin, 16th century.
Now, tell me about this one.
Also from Benin, 7th century, Fula tribe, I believe.
Nah.
I beg your pardon.
It was taken by British soldiers in Benin, but it's from Wakanda, and it's made out of vibranium. Don't trip. I'm gonna take it off your hands for you.
These items aren't for sale.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
So
That's exactly what they did. And sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. All right? Esau Edom wants to hold himself guilty. I'm not guilty. Matter of fact, let's get a scripture on that. And he wants to keep what he's stolen. All right? He definitely wants to keep what he's stolen. That's Zechariah. I have to think about it. I knew the number but couldn't remember the book. This is Zechariah 11:5. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, or blessed be Yahweh, for I am rich. And their own shepherds pity them not. So Esau never wants to hold himself guilty for what he's done. And, and the first person I ever heard say that was that museums is evidence of theft. Museums are evidence of rape, robbing, and pillaging. Because how do you think they got those things? And they didn't pay any money for them. And so if something is from where you are and it belongs to your people and it came from your heritage, especially if you happen to be in a bloodline of the family where it came from, you show up in a museum, who does it really belong to? See, so Esau has stolen the world, and that's why the Lord is coming to move him out of the way. He's being chased out of the world. And like I said, he rewrites, covers up history, and changes it. And it goes back to when I talked about these people. These they are full of piss. This one, he said, he said I think the name of this one is The Lobbyists. All right. And this, that George Carlin said, the lobbyists, they got you by the balls because they control everything, including the education, was put in the books. And I told you that everything about America, everything about Babylon, when it comes to educational, health, entertainment, whatever it is, the small hats are at the head of it, at the helm of it. All right. And this young lady here, she kind of proved that, what we already knew. But here we go.
Did you know that the standardized textbooks of our American education system were all published by Ghislaine Maxwell's father? He owned a company called Pergamon Press. Anyways, this is my driver.
So, that little golden nugget proves a lot of things.
Did you know that the standardized textbooks of our American education system were all published by Ghislaine Maxwell's father? He owned a company called Pergamon Press. Anyways, this is my driver.
And like I said, once again, I love it when let's take that back.
By Ghislaine Maxwell's.
When they wear white. Because with that white hat next to her red face, you know, you can clearly see when it says, you know, how the Bible describes Esau, Edom, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. What people are actually born red. You know, there's no denying the truth. And there she goes. So Ghislaine Maxwell's father, well, we know what club he's a part of, you know, and had a big thing to do, and they have control over the textbooks. So they adjust, rewrite, hide, and omit history. And they write history in a way where they celebrate their accomplishments and downplay the murder, the rape, the robbery, the violence that they did. Because like the guy said, they didn't create civilizations. They took over civilized people. They would call them savages, because a lot of people they call savages had governments and systems in place that were very well organized, but that was omitted from history books. You know, you never like a lot of the castles that are built in Europe. You would never know that those same castles. It was castles like that built all throughout, you know, throughout northern Africa, where the Israelites were from. He talked about Benin. It was taken from Benin. That would happen to be the place where they were taking the Israelites that were refugees in Africa. That happened to be the place where that happened. Okay? So I'm going to play this last video because it kind of falls in line with the subject matter. You know, the many subject matters. This was a lot of topics, but it all based upon the cruelty, the lies, and exposure of Edom, who likes to play the victim, especially now, but they're really the villains. And so here's another erased, controlled history, all right, that's now being, see, that's why they have to shut down and control the internet, okay? Or they'll use their media to say, well, you can put anything on the internet. Yeah, you can put the truth on the internet, and then you can lie about it and say that it's not the truth and continue with your lies, you know, because that's what they do.
Good morning.
What if I told you an entire black population, once half a country's capital, vanished almost overnight? Not because of war, not because of migration, but because a government wanted to erase them on purpose. They built the streets of Buenos Aires. They fought and died in Argentina's wars. They filled the music halls with rhythm, laughter.
So what you were looking at were the so-called black Argentinians. But guess what? All of South America was so-called, you know, were brown people, just like North, South, Central, and North America. Okay? The natives and the Latinos, so-called, that are light-complected today are part of this blanqueamiento and a part of this whitening of the race. Okay? But that still does not make them not Israelites. Anybody who still is a seed, you know, just because you're lightened up, all right, any of the males that survived and were still able to lay seed, regardless of, you know, what they look like as a result of that male line survived, there's still many Israelites among them. And some of them are going to look like the other nations. But this is a perfect example of that. You know, when the scripture says that an enemy done this, the enemy came in, that he laid good seed, and the enemy came in and the wheat and the tares, okay? And for you BHIs out there, you black only Israelites, BOIs, all right? That happened to you too. The Southern Kingdom. There's a lot of the Edomites laid a lot of seed in Israelite women. Okay, so there's a lot of tares among the Southern Kingdom as well. So just because and some of those children came out chocolate as hell, but they're from the sperm line, the seed line, the bloodline of a so-called white man. So that's just a chocolate-covered white person. You know, biblically, it makes it very clear that you are whatever your father is, regardless of what your outer appearance is. And people need to, and that's something else that Esau changed. And, you know, the girl talked about how they, you know, who controls the textbooks. They took that out of the textbooks as well, because there were books that told you that. I got a book on the shelf behind me that talks about when they did that. And, I think it was in the 1700s when they started doing that. All right, they started making slave. 17 or 1600s. There's a book on the shelf behind me by Alain Gallet. Okay, by Alain Gallet. Let me see the name of it. Let me just turn around. Not Black Indians. Nope, not that one. Man, I got a lot of books. Salakia. Thought I'd be able to just peep it real quick. I know I have it. I might have moved it up front. But it's by the author. I do remember the author's name. I just can't remember the name of the book. But, you know, damn it. Of course, when I'm not looking for it, I'll walk right up on it. Oh, the Indian slave trade. Here it is. That's the name of it. There it is. The Indian slave trade by sliding around on my chest, Salakia. The Indian slave trade by Alain Gallet. In that book, it tells you that there was an odd thing that so-called white men, slave traders, do. They started so that they can make more babies, and also so that they can make more slaves. They began to make the children take on the heritage of their mothers. All right, when the Bible tells you through and through that, you know, whatever the father is, that's what the child is. All right, a mother all throughout history. So that's a new world thing. All right, it really is. That's a new world thing. That's kind of like a barely a 300-year-old thing. All right, maybe 350 years. So you go back, you know, prior to that, the whole world identified you by your father, never your mother. All right.
Who are you? Look, France's economy.
Did you know?
I did.
France's economy.
Good morning.
One more.
What if
There
I
it
told
is.
you an entire black population, once half a country's capital, vanished almost overnight? Not because of war, not because of migration, but because a government wanted to erase them on purpose. They built the streets of Buenos Aires. They fought and died in Argentina's wars. They filled the music halls with rhythm, laughter, and life. And yet, today, they are nearly invisible. Black Argentinians once made up nearly half of Buenos Aires' population, but now less than 2%. So what happened? It wasn't an accident. It was a plan, a deliberate erasure. In the 19th century, Argentina sent thousands of black men to the front lines of war, knowing many wouldn't return. Diseases like yellow fever and cholera swept through poor black neighborhoods with little medical aid. But it goes deeper. By 1887, the Argentine census stopped counting Afro-Argentinians altogether. It simply erased them. Meanwhile, waves of European immigrants flooded in, reshaping the face of Argentina while its black legacy was buried. Why?
And
Because
that's
the
what you
ruling
need to
elite
hear
wanted
right
a
there.
white nation.
That's all you needed to hear. And they did the same thing here in America. Census enumerators reclassified many aboriginals, many natives as Negro, right? And they classified a lot of natives as Negro as well. Okay, and saying that they were the same people. Truth be said, that they were, and there wasn't really much difference between them as far as their skin was skin color. They did have different, you know, sometimes they had different hair textures, but, you know, but Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, well, they start bringing in all these European men, and well, there you go. And not allowing the native men to intermix and breed with their own women and produce, you know, all these light complected people. But then, you know, those women still end up getting back with men from there, you know, and there you go. You couldn't keep them away forever. But this is Job 9:24. All right, Esau was able to do this because he is the wicked, man. This is Job 9:24, and it reads, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?" So he, you know, covers up. He'll erase your face and breed you out and put his face up and say that he's the people of this land. And that's exactly what he's done. That's exactly what he does. All right, you know. In Genesis 27 chapter, it says, you know, by the sword he shall live, and so the sword lives me. You going around slaying and conquering and stealing shit, you know. Modern day sword is a gun, and he just a you know, he just a YN. That's because Esau's the real YN around here, you know, and he just running up on everybody, making them break themselves. Break yourself, you know. And take your whole heritage, your land, your everything from you. Because he is the wicked. And the Wadi Hawabashim Abashai, you know, we're living in a time where he's about to be chased out of the world. All right? Because this is definitely the end of his age. So with that, we're going to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash, Kwam, Yasarala, Abba, Babal.